These days, work is in trouble. We've outsourced most of our manufacturing to other countries. And with that, we sent away good jobs and our capability to make things. American Giant is a clothing company that's pushing back against this tide. They make all kinds of high-quality clothing and activewear, like sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more, right here in the USA. So when you buy American Giant, you create jobs in towns and cities across the country. And jobs bring pride, purpose. They stitch people together. If all that sounds good to you, visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with promo code STAPLE20.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you feeling overwhelmed by the demands of your relationships? You know what? Maybe it's time that you set some boundaries.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank you for tuning in today. So, here is the challenge for today. And a lot of us are dealing with it, more or less, in some cases. But are you overextending yourself in building relationships? Have you taken the time to really consider what's burning you out? Now, here's where I am going with this. If you remember, I said something about building boundaries. And sometimes we don't understand that importance of building the boundaries that ensures that we don't overextend ourselves either emotionally nor physically. And so here's an example that I'm going to give, again, in the corporate America setting. I recall working with an individual with whom every day he would go and speak to this young lady. And this young lady, she never really said no out loud, but you could tell every now and then her body language was off. We were in a department that, I was in customer service. And y'all know I worked in quite a few organizations in customer service. So, and so because of that, I understand the importance of communication. I understand the importance of body language. I understand the importance of getting your message across, not just to your internal clients, but your external clients as well, and vice versa. Because I would say that both of them are equally important. But I could tell that this young lady, going back to the story, was uncomfortable at times with this gentleman coming up to her. Now, in all reality, I don't know the gist of their conversations. I really don't. But there were times when we would work because our shift was past the normal 5 o'clock time. So a lot of, it was a group of us that's had to work until certain hours, and this customer service area was a 24-hour operation. And so, um, so he would go and speak to her as genuine as it appeared, as sincere as it appeared. But I recall later on, after that gentleman had left the organization, I sat down with her one day, just, passing by. I'm like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? And how are you feeling today? And she said, oh my gosh, I feel a lot better. I said, why? She said, because he would come and speak to me, and I would feel something pent up inside of me, not knowing how to deal with it, not knowing how to express to him how I felt, because he always had a comment or a rebuttal to any and everything that I had to say. So it was a little off every now and then. I said, so my question is that were you able to express to him that you didn't want to speak to him, that, you need to go back to your desk, all those type of things? She said, here's the thing. There were some days where it was a great conversation. There'll be some days where there's some things that he's talking about that I just like, why are you telling me this? I don't want to hear your stories and whatever it is. And so the challenge was her being able to set up that boundary, or expressing what that boundary might have been, with him pouring out his heart to her, because evidently he felt comfortable enough. Evidently her aura, because she was a really, really nice individual, and you could speak to her about almost any and everything. But did he divulge too much information where it made her feel uncomfortable? And so, I know for myself, if I felt that way, my jokey self would now tell that individual, listen, my couch is only open X amount of time. So I don't need you to dump all this stuff on me, because you got to pay me. Now, that's my nice and polite way of explaining that I might not be comfortable in that situation. I might not be comfortable in that particular or specific conversation on that particular topic, because unfortunately sometimes we do take advantage and we don't understand what the situation is. So we need to communicate openly and honestly about our true availability in those situations, because sometimes we don't want to be available to hear someone else's challenge. Now, here's the flip side of that as well. It's the goes for us as well. For those of us that might be oversharing and understanding, hey, maybe this is not the time nor the place. Maybe that person does feel a little off. And maybe we should read the room a little bit better. Now, on a whole nother version of this, that where everyone is sharing And it opens up other places and spaces that may be a little off. And so we'll talk about being authentic and vulnerable in another episode. But those are the pieces that sometimes, even with that, we need to understand what our limits are and expressing what our limits are without feeling guilty. We should be able to express that, especially if you feel as though that this individual is a good person to talk to. You don't want to jeopardize the friendship. You don't want to jeopardize the relationship, especially in a corporate setting, because unfortunately, we do not know how that information is going to fall back on us. Now, I'm not saying to you to withdraw. I'm not saying to you to fully pull away. But we need to understand that there are some boundaries that we don't want to overstep, because once you overstep it, once you go past that boundary, a lot of times it's not easy to come back. And in overstepping that boundary, now you can start to get into the realm of you personally feeling drained. You could feel overwhelmed because of the information. You could also become resentful of the person one way or another, whether or not they spoke too much or you spoke too much. You can start to feel resentful. Now, all of a sudden, because of these negative feelings, you're starting to respond in a negative way physically. You're pulling away. Your facial expressions are not as pleasant. Even as, again, we're in customer service. So even when you speak to the next client on the phone, is that client getting the residuals of that conversation? Are you able to flip the switch, turn the dial, so that customer or that client is not getting the residuals of your feeling overwhelmed? Just some things to think about as we're starting to build healthy boundaries that will help you prevent ultimately burnout at the end of the day. I thank you very much for listening.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chisholm on social media to stay connected, and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?